This is a demonstration of learning and what can happen when we really believe in this statement from Eisner. And I hope what you're going to see is what's really possible when we believe in this and we open up the curriculum and the organisation of teaching and learning and really give freedom to the students to organise that teaching and learning. So we've heard a lot this morning already about how people work now, and I talked a little bit yesterday about the gap between what happens in schools and what happens in real life and how adults work. And what we've been trying to do here is close that gap. So when we talk about uncovering the curriculum, it's not enough just to cover the existing curriculum now. We know we have to uncover the curriculum and let the students uncover the curriculum. Now, Jen's Royal Dubai School, where Melania attends at the moment, she's been there a few years. The curriculum has just been rated outstanding by the SIB. It's been quite a long journey, but it's finally got there. And I think one of the main things that really tipped it into the outstanding bracket was the freedom that the students now have to organise their learning, to study the areas within a topic that they want to extend their learning into, to organise their learning in terms of where they work, who they work with, putting teams together, which we've seen Melania doing. There was a lovely moment when she had a little team of helpers in the maths suite, and the children were beavering away, and all of a sudden I had one child put a hand up and turned around and said to Melania, Miss, it got to that level where Melania was displaying these leadership skills, where the children actually thought, you know, she was the leader, she was the teacher, and she's an 11-year-old student. So it's about, Rana talked this morning about organising learning in terms of time and place, where we want to work, and importantly as well, the tools we choose to work with. So I'll come back to that. This is not an advert for Apple at all. Melania has chosen to use certain tools, some of them were Apple, some of them weren't. Obviously, she's put this together in iBooks Author, but she's used widgets from outside of that. She's used Google, she's Google Apps, Google Docs. You know, the rubric or the instructions for what she should, you know, the basic outcomes that she should be looking for were shared on Google Docs, and she's added to those. She's worked on a speech in Google Docs as well. And you know, teachers have helped her with that, and friends have chipped in. So there's been a whole range of tools. It's just been put together with Apple technology. But Melania has chosen those tools. She's worked with people she wanted to work with, including her grandmother who was here. So there was a lot said yesterday about parental engagement. Well, we've got some great grandparental engagement going on here as well, introducing the family to the technology that the children are using in schools. So this is what it's about. It's about giving the students the freedom to organise their learning and to take their learning in the direction that they want to go in. Now, I showed this briefly yesterday as well, and this is where the technology comes in, the SAMA model, courtesy again of Dr. Quentin Dura. So, obviously, you know, I don't like to see this as being the holy grail is to get to the top redefinition. I think if you're at the bottom sometimes and it's a direct substitute, well, okay, because at least it's in the hands of the students and they're on the ladder. Even if it's augmentation, if there's functional improvement, it's improvement. And I think sometimes people look at this and see you're below the line, so it's not worth doing. Well, if you improve things, it's worth doing. But of course, what we're really looking for most of the time is to try to get something transformational. And I think that's what Melania has produced here, and which you're going to see now, because it's not just the technology that's transformed it, that's facilitated the process, but actually what's made this possible is the decision of the school to change the curriculum, to give the students more freedom to organise everything around their learning, who they want to work with, what they use and so on. Okay? If you do want to download Melania's work afterwards, it's not yet published on iTunes. We haven't decided on a price yet, have we? No, I'm joking. But it is, we put it on Dropbox, so if you want to download it afterwards, you can scan that QR code, and you can scan that now if you want to, and you'll tweet the, please don't download it in here, okay, because it'll mess the Wi-Fi up, because it's half a gigabyte, the whole thing. Alright, but just take the link and you can download it later, but we'll also tweet it. Okay? And that's a lovely picture of transforming learning already, taking the presentation from that. Okay? So without further ado, I will introduce Melania, and she can show you her work.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melania. I'm 11 years old and I'm from Marina. I'm in Year 6 at General Device School, and today I will be presenting an iBook that I've been working on over the past few weeks. Right now I'm on iBooks, and I've been using iBooks Author to create my book, and this is it. As you can see already, this is not a normal book. This is a book with superpowers. The video was done in iMovie and the footage was filmed with the iPad. Then the footage was imported onto my MacBook using iPhoto. A friend composed the music and recorded it directly onto GarageBand. You put it all together and that's your movie. For the first few stages, I have been working on my MacBook, but I decided that it would be easier working on a bigger screen. So I copied the file and then inserted it on the school's iMac. If you give me an iPad, I don't think much would be done, because it would be easier for me to find more suitable technology, because it makes my work easier. And the more suitable variety, the more variety you have. This is the acknowledgements page where I thank the people who contributed in order to finish this book. And I have included people who volunteered to take part and allowed people to come and help and collaborate. The foreword. Here's a bit about the book and how it affects our learning. It is about all the things the book helps innovate learning and make it as comfortable and as enjoyable as possible. It talks about how this is a live book. Imagine reading a book when the author can update it any time, instead of waiting years and years for a new edition. Here's my first chapter. This chapter is all about Victorian Britain and the Empire. Now, this subject is learned in a British curriculum school, just like General Device School. But the special thing about this is that I'm allowed to carry on my own research and find out more on my own interests. Here's the first section of the chapter. In here, I have information answering the question, what would it be like living as a Victorian? This was more important to me rather than something like the Crimean War. This shows how much liberty is given towards learning for ourselves. If someone just keeps talking, I guarantee I won't remember much, because most of it won't be of my interest, but I can change the way I learn. finding a more comfortable way of learning. It will make it easier, and of course I remember much more. Carrying on, there are some keynotes on Victorian fashion. They're all very simple in order to keep the reader engaged, and they're just an idea, not too complicated, with pictures to show, to help with the visuals. And there's one for Over here you have an interactive widget. As you can see, it's just a label photo. But if you click on one of the labels, it will automatically zoom in and give you a small definition of what it was or how it was used. Over here you have another widget. It's a word search. But the difference is that this word search was downloaded from something called Bookry. Now, Bookry is a special site where you can download widgets especially made for iBooks author. And in order to download this, you need an account, so I created one. And this is very interactive in order to keep the reader engaged. Down here you also have a link. Now if you click on the link, it will go to Wikipedia. I'm directing the reader to more information. And then it brought you out of the book, but you can go back in very easily. This is the page on Queen Victoria. Again, I'm looking into the subject and taking things that interest me. Over here you have a widget on her family, a slide puzzle. Again, downloaded from Bookry. Very interactive and to engage the reader. This is Twitter. This is where you see the living book. I have embedded a Twitter feed, and in here you can look at all the tweets I post with me acting as Prince Albert in the Victorian era. This again is something interactive, and I've made an account especially for this. As I'm writing more and more, you'll have this automatically updated, so you have something new every time you look at it. Here's my blog. Well, it's loading. This too gets updated as I post new things on it. In order to get a blog, you have to have a Google account. You can go to blogger.com, and that allows you to create your own free blog, just like this one. For example, just like this one. And you have posts explaining the Victorian era and how life was like living in those times. And also you have some features. For example, you can translate this into any language you want. You also have video. Horrible Mysteries videos. You can watch this in the blog. So you have a video in a blog, in a book. Here's a chapter I did on my own country. It shows how I am extending my learning. I'm not only learning about the Victorians. I'm learning about the Victorian era, as in the 19th century. I'm finding out more about my culture while working. Here's my first section. The first thing I would ask myself about history would be, what would it be like living in that time? That's why I always talk about that subject. In here, it talks about Romanian traditions. Here's a video I took with my grandma, using the iPads, and how many of you speak Romanian? No one, I suppose. How many of you speak English? That's what I thought. That's why I put this footage into iMovie and created subtitles in English.
Prima întrebare. Cum crezi că era viața muzicală când era copil? Era tesoretă, în sensul că lui
Jackson Wiener was given the purple. She talking aware on Zoom.
I remember that.
So you get the idea. This is not a reflective image, but as you can see, most of the layers are out of view. But that's okay because you can move around. Here is a keynote on Romanian food. Now this keynote has just some of the many traditional Romanian dishes. Who heard of Dracula? Who thinks he's a vampire? Actually, he was a Romanian prince from the 15th century, but Bram Stoker wrote the book about Dracula and vampire. Now, what is the legacy between the 15th century and the 19th century? Now, I'm writing this book about the 19th century. I knew about Dracula, but I had no idea about Bram Stoker, and his life is very interesting. Over here, I have a video from the History Channel. Now, I'm already aware of copyright, so I didn't put the whole episode. I only put 5 minutes of it to get the idea, and it's just a brief overview at the beginning.
Stories from the pages of time. Stories of triumph and tragedy, adventure and achievement, as we go in search of history. Dracula, a name that inspires horror and fear, a bloodthirsty murderer immortalized in fiction and in film. The incredible legend of the vampire, passed along with folklore, myths, and Irish author Bram Stoker's best-selling novel, Dracula, did have a human inspiration. A 15th century Romanian prince called Vlad the Impaler.
Down here, you also have a keynote on Vlad III, so that you know who the Romanian prince was and why this Romanian prince was so popular suddenly. Why this was Bram Stoker's key inspiration. Over here you have another widget from Cookery, and this is a Google Maps. Now, the good thing about this is that it's already set up, so you don't have to search for Dracula's castle. It's already there. That's it over there. And you can also use this little map to get a street view. So you get a virtual tour of the castle without going on an airplane. And make sure you don't sit on the same place because you don't want to get stuck by the gates. And as you can see, this is a very popular tourist site. Over here, you have a chapter done by a friend. While in progress, this again extended my learning, finding out about her country in those times as well. So this is Mel's math chapter and her interests. She was very interested in Abraham Lincoln. This is the page she did on him. And she added a gallery. And if the pictures are too small, you can just zoom in. And they are just the main places where Abraham Lincoln was, about Abraham Lincoln and his knowledge. Over here you have a widget. It's a word search that she herself did and downloaded it. Over here you have short biographies. Again, I'm aware of copyright.
During this time, he kept the Union together during the Southern Secession and the Civil War, and brought about the end of slavery in the United States.
chapter on the UAE. In my learning, I also include the events and culture of the location I am in. Over here, you have another picture. This is just like the blog of the Victorians, only that this isn't my blog. This is Wikipedia. It's a web page. So if the author from Wikipedia decides to update it, that's when you see the new kind. So over here, it just has a brief history of UAE. This is the UAE civilization. Over here you have another link where it takes you to the sites about the Bedouin people and how they used to live, who they are. This is a peanut on the palm tree. Now over here you see the title cover. Now then you can see the white rectangle, but if you tap on it once and wait, it turns into a movie.
Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. A place where desert and culture blend to create scenes of spectacular beauty. A place where, but for one living thing, life would be impossible. Where one tree alone has enabled people and animals to climb against all odds of thousands of years. Where one tree is more closely entwined with human culture than anywhere else in the world.
So what you have there is a video in a peanut in a book. And over here it just says about palm trees uses, species, and all the other types. And then at the end we have another video on the big palm. This is another slide puzzle in order to keep the reader engaged. Now I know that Mr. Edward hates these slide puzzles, so that's why I included some more. Over here it's a chapter on other countries. I learned about all of those countries, but I can learn more. In this chapter, it's all about the other countries I haven't mentioned. So I'm extending my learning once again. Here, this is a page on your country. Over here, you have a widget in which you can write your own story. This is another Google Maps, but the difference is that this is a map of the world. So what you can do here is go and find your country without taking the plane. So you can zoom in on Dubai. You can find Dubai Marina, and so on. This is the chapter that sums it all up. Over here, I have a question. How have the 1800s affected us? So again, this is the summary of it all. What is the legacy between the past and present? And of course, the future. What happened that changed the world? You have a bit of that, and down here you have your story again. You can write how your country changed the world of today. And if you go back in, you can find that others wrote some more. So you can write below. This is where the reader becomes the creator. On the right you have just some videos on summing it all up. You have Industrial Revolution from Horrible Histories, What Would the World Be Like Without Romania, America's Civil War, and UAE Permit. This is a book review. Over here, it tests your knowledge on the country, on the book, and how much you understood. At the end, you have a little challenge. If you submit, well, you need some required questions to answer, but if you submit, it will go directly to the author, and you can find out how much you got. One more thing before I go. If you want to go back to, let's say, Queen Victoria's page, all you can do is zoom out directly onto the contents. You go to the chapter, and there you go, and so on. It's very simple and very interactive. This is how I learn. If you have any questions about digital learning at Worldwide School or my book, I'd be happy to answer them during coffee. Thank you.
I don't think I need the box, but that was absolutely fantastic. Well done. Can we just have another round of applause? Listening to that, it just makes me want to start my whole teaching career again and get back in the classroom and have fantastic students like that. I think it's probably appropriate that you talk to Melania over coffee and have perhaps a personal demo of some of the aspects of the book. What a fantastic collection, and what an excellent example of how deep learning can take place integrating technology. That was absolutely fantastic. And may I call you Mr. Redhead? Thank you very much for organising that, and the other teachers and the family for coming along. Without more ado, I think this is the morning